African who existed in history, and they say history is when a people begins to write. And they say history is when a people begins to write. That starts the history. That means there is no history for Greece until Homer wrote the Iliad, and there is no other written record in Europe until Homer wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey, which was 833 before the Common Era. And Homer said in the Odyssey, quote, the gods Zeus and Apollo came from Ethiopia, unquote. Zeus and Apollo is known as Greece's first two gods. And Homer himself, the first Greek writer, said they came from Ethiopia. And Homer said in the Odyssey, quote, the gods Zeus and Apollo came from Ethiopia, unquote. Zeus and Apollo is known as Greece's first two gods. And Homer himself, the first Greek writer, said they came from Ethiopia. The gods Zeus and Apollo came from Ethiopia, unquote. Zeus and Apollo is known as Greece's first two gods. And Homer himself, the first Greek writer, said they came from Ethiopia. Zeus and Apollo is known as Greece's first two gods. And Homer himself, the first Greek writer, said they came from Ethiopia. When the Africans wrote and created writing, there was no God Jehovah yet, no Adam and Eve yet. There was no God Jehovah yet, no Adam and Eve yet. The first Hebrew, Abraham, was not born. Abraham is not born until at best 1346 before the Common Era. And Cairo is an old city. The oldest city could go back in Fustat. And it was made by the conquerors during the time of Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali wasn't even an Arab. He was an Albanian who took on the name Muhammad Ali. Now, when he converted to Islam to get the throne. When Abraham was born is equivalent to the 13th dynasty. Now, that's the 13th dynasty. If we go back to find out all that was done by the time of the 13th dynasty here, before the first Asian, there is no European history then. The Etruscans, the first of European, along with the people of Perth, which later became the Romans and the Greeks, are not in history then. That don't say they don't exist, but there are no records of them. There's no record of an Adam or an Eve. Then what? No God, no Jehovah, no Jesus, no Allah. Then are not in history then. That don't say they don't exist, but there are no records of them. There's no record of an Adam or an Eve. Then what? No God, no Jehovah, no Jesus, no Allah. Then.
But the Africans were already...
Oh, but Africa and the Ptah. I'm going at random. I could keep knock them up. Let me go. Since African God had goddesses, I mean, they weren't eunuchs or anything like that. So the Africans had Ptah, right? They had Nut. They had Osiris. They had Isis. And by the way, I could use the proper name. When I say Osiris, they had Asaru. When I say Isis, they had Aset. They had his son, the Trinity. They had Asaru's son, Heru or Horus, born of an immaculate conceived mother. He himself born of a virgin birth, which you can see the story at the temple of Seti I at a place called Abydos. And Seti I was a king, 19th dynasty king. The Africans equally had numerous other goddesses and gods.